My name is Maya. I am 25 years old. Everyone thinks I am a poor, simple floor cleaner. I wear this cheap uniform for a secret reason. Let me tell you my shocking true story today. My family owns a massive global business empire. Our main headquarters is in sunny Los Angeles. My father is the powerful company chairman. He is a very smart and strict man. He taught me how to lead people well. I learned many valuable lessons from him. I worked hard to prove my own skills. I managed a small regional branch last year. I fixed their terrible sales numbers very quickly. My father was incredibly proud of my work. He called me into his huge office recently. He looked very serious and quite worried. He gave me a very difficult new task. We have a large branch in another city. This big branch is losing massive money lately. The previous director left the company in shame. Nobody knew the real reason for the failure. The official reports looked completely fake and wrong. My father wanted me to be the boss. He wanted me to fix the broken system. But I had a very different secret plan. A smart leader must know the real battlefield. Walking in as the boss is a mistake. The bad managers will hide their dirty crimes. People will lie to my face easily. They will smile and hide the ugly truth. I needed to become completely invisible to them. I asked my father to wait 2 weeks. He agreed to keep my promotion a secret. I traveled to the failing branch city alone. I left my expensive, beautiful clothes at home. I bought a cheap gray cleaning uniform instead. I tied my long brown hair back simply. I applied for a job as a janitor. They hired me immediately to clean the floors. The manager did not ask any hard questions. Nobody knew my real name or my wealth. I was just a poor girl with a mop. I started my first day at the office. I held my plastic bucket and wet mop. The large office was incredibly busy and loud. I pushed my heavy cleaning cart very slowly. I cleaned the floors and watched the workers. I looked for the real source of trouble. I saw deep fear in their tired faces. They walked around with very heavy, sad steps. Someone was destroying this branch from the inside. A dark, toxic culture poisoned the whole place. I needed to find the cruel, toxic leaders. I needed to see their true, ugly faces. Tomorrow, I will clean the busy main hallway. I will meet the angry queen of sales. A terrible accident will happen on the wet floor. You will not believe her extremely cruel reaction. It happened during my second day at work. I was cleaning the main hallway very quietly. My mop made the floor shiny and wet. I put up a bright yellow safety sign. Brenda was the powerful head of sales here. She was 30 years old and very loud. She wore incredibly expensive clothes and heavy jewelry. She walked around like an angry, toxic queen. She walked down the busy hallway that morning. She looked at her expensive phone constantly today. She did not watch her heavy, fast steps. She completely ignored my bright yellow safety sign. She stepped directly onto the very wet floor. Her high heels slipped on the water immediately. She fell down with a loud, heavy crash. Her expensive phone hit the hard wall loudly. The entire busy hallway became completely, totally silent. Brenda stood up slowly from the wet floor. Her expensive silk dress was wet and dirty. She looked at me with pure dark hatred. "Are you completely stupid today?" she screamed loudly. "You are a blind and dirty, ugly rat. You ruined my beautiful, expensive dress," she yelled. Her face was completely red with total embarrassment. "I am very sorry," I apologized very politely. The safety sign is right there, I pointed. My calm, reasonable voice made her even angrier. She kicked my yellow water bucket very violently. Your life is cheap and worthless, she threatened. You are just stupid human trash, she spat. I will fire you immediately today, she promised. I listened to her cruel words in silence. The other office workers watched in cowardly silence. Nobody dared to speak against the evil queen. Nobody wanted to help a poor, dirty janitor. I wanted to reveal my true identity immediately. I wanted to fire her on the spot. But a brave man stepped forward very suddenly. The brave man stepped between me and Brenda. He protected me from her terrible loud anger. His name was David, and he was kind. David was the vice manager of sales today. He was 28 years old and smart. He wore a simple but clean blue suit. He always smiled warmly at the lower workers. He gently pushed Brenda away from my face. Please calm down right now, David told her. She is just doing her simple dirty job. The floor is clearly wet, he pointed calmly. It was a simple accident, he said softly. I can help clean your dress, he offered. Brenda looked at him with complete pure shock. A simple vice manager dared to challenge her. She turned all her massive anger toward him. You are a weak, stupid boy, she screamed. You are a completely useless manager, she yelled. She mocked his simple clothes and gentle personality. Mind your own stupid business, Brenda warned him. You will never get a promotion, she promised. I will ruin your entire career, she threatened. David stayed perfectly calm and totally polite today. Treating poor workers badly is wrong, David replied. Basic human respect is very important, he said. A good leader protects weak people, he stated. His wise words made the queen even angrier. You are my biggest enemy now, Brenda yelled. She promised to make him scrub dirty toilets. David did not step back or show fear. He stood there like a strong, solid wall. I watched this amazing, brave man very closely. He risked his hard job for a stranger. He defended a poor janitor against a monster. I saw true leadership in his kind eyes. I decided to promote him in my mind. He was my new favorite employee right now. But the loud hallway drama was not over. The loud noise attracted a very scary man. Richard was the vice director of the branch. He was 40 years old and extremely arrogant. He walked through the silent, cowardly crowd easily. He looked at David with pure cold anger. What is this stupid mess? Richard asked loudly. Brenda pointed her finger at David very quickly. He is protecting this dirty rat, she screamed. Richard nodded his head at the angry queen. He turned his cold eyes toward brave David. You are completely useless here, Richard told David. You will lose your job today, he threatened. The other workers stayed completely silent and afraid. Nobody defended the brave young vice manager today. The toxic power scared them into total silence. David did not step back or show fear. She caused the accident herself, David replied calmly. She ignored the safety sign, he explained clearly. Richard laughed a very cruel and loud laugh. I make the rules here, Richard said proudly. He told David to leave the hallway immediately. Pack your cheap things today, Brenda added loudly. David looked at them with a sad smile. He walked back to his desk very quietly. I felt a massive wave of pure guilt. I wanted to protect him with my power, but I needed more proof of their crimes. Then Richard walked slowly toward my scared face. He looked at my cheap uniform with disgust. But his cold eyes were also incredibly creepy. He leaned very close to my right ear. I could smell his strong, cheap morning coffee. "You are actually very pretty," he whispered softly. "Come to my office tonight," he suggested quietly. "I can give you a better job," he smiled. "Just be a good girl," he added creepily. I felt completely sick and incredibly, totally disgusted. "I just want to clean," I whispered back. I kept my head down like a true coward. Richard laughed softly and touched my shoulder roughly. "Think about my sweet offer," he said proudly. "Do not be a stupid girl," he warned. He walked away with the angry sales queen. The cowardly workers finally went back to work. I picked up my wet yellow plastic bucket. I cleaned the dirty water from the floor. My hands were shaking with pure hot anger. I wanted to destroy his arrogant, toxic face. I survived his creepy whisper and walked away. I plan to clean their private office tomorrow. I will discover a very dirty, huge secret. You will hate these two toxic bosses more. They are hiding terrible crimes in the dark. Their dirty romance will shock the entire office. I will find their stolen money very soon. My cleaning cart gave me a magical power. I was totally invisible to the bad bosses. I heard their terrible conversations in the dark. Let me tell you about their dark romance. I pushed my cleaning cart into Richard's office. The large room was completely empty and quiet. But I heard strange noises from the back. The back room door was slightly open today. I walked very softly toward the wooden door. I looked through the small gap in silence. Brenda and Richard were kissing on the sofa. They were secret lovers in the quiet office. "You are so beautiful," Richard whispered to her. Brenda laughed loudly and kissed his ugly face. This dirty romance was a huge toxic scandal. Brenda had a good husband at her home. Richard had a sweet wife and 2 kids. They were cheating on their innocent, happy families. I felt incredibly sick watching their gross actions. "Did you transfer the new money?" Brenda asked. "I want a new diamond ring," she smiled. She touched his expensive tie with greedy hands. "Yes, the fake account is full," Richard laughed. "We stole $50,000 today," he bragged. My eyes grew wide with absolute pure shock. "The old director was so stupid," Brenda said. "He never checked the sales reports," she added. "We blamed him for the missing money," Richard smiled. "He lost his job for our crimes," he whispered. I recorded their conversation on my cheap phone. I needed this hard proof for my father. I pressed the red button with a smile. I stepped back from the wooden door quickly. I accidentally hit a heavy chair with my foot. The loud noise echoed in the quiet office. "Who is out there?" Richard yelled very angrily. "Show yourself right now," Brenda screamed in fear. I grabbed my cleaning mop with shaking hands. I started scrubbing the floor with fast movements. Richard opened the wooden door with a bang. He looked at me with incredibly angry eyes. "What are you doing here?" he demanded loudly. "Did you hear us talking?" he asked suspiciously. "I am just cleaning the floors," I answered. I kept my face totally blank and stupid. "Get out of my private office," he commanded. I bowed my head and ran away fast. I escaped his angry eyes with my life. But I found their stolen money documents next. They ruined a good innocent man for greed. I will uncover the whole terrible financial crime. I will save this failing branch very soon. A smart vice manager will help me tomorrow. Our secret team will defeat the evil bosses. Let me tell you about the fake reports. I sneaked into the dark printing room alone. I opened the large plastic trash bags quietly. I found hundreds of torn paper pieces inside. I took them to my small janitor closet. I taped the torn white papers together slowly. I discovered a very terrible and dark truth. The old branch director was a good man. He worked very hard for this big company. But Brenda and Richard hated his strict rules. They wanted total control of the big branch. They created fake sales numbers every single month. They moved company money to their secret accounts. They made the branch look completely bankrupt today. The old director could not explain the losses. The top bosses in Los Angeles were angry. They fired the innocent man without any mercy. He lost his long career and his reputation. Brenda and Richard celebrated his sad, dark ruin. They officially became the top bosses right then. They started stealing even more money every day. They bought expensive luxury cars and diamond rings. The toxic culture grew worse under their control. I held the taped papers in my hands. I had solid proof of their terrible crimes. But the branch was still dying very fast. Good workers were leaving the company every week. I will stop David from quitting his job. I need good people to save this branch. Please listen to his very sad confession today. It was a very late and quiet evening. I pushed my cleaning cart past his desk. David was sitting there all alone in silence. He held a small brown cardboard box today. He put his family photos inside the box. He looked completely exhausted and incredibly, totally defeated. "Are you going home?" I asked him softly. He looked at my cheap uniform and smiled. "I am leaving the company forever," he sighed. "I cannot survive in this toxic place anymore. Brenda steals all my successful new sales projects. She puts her own name on my work. Richard threatens to fire me every single day. Good people cannot win against evil, toxic bosses. I must find a new job," he said. I felt a massive wave of pure sadness. The evil bosses were destroying the best talents. I stopped pretending to be a stupid janitor. I looked directly into his tired, sad eyes. "Please do not quit your job today," I said. "Just wait for one more day," I promised. "The evil bosses will fall tomorrow," I stated. David looked at me with very confused eyes. "You are just a simple janitor," he whispered. "You cannot fight their massive power," he warned. "Trust me for 24 hours, I smiled. He saw a strong fire in my eyes. He nodded his head very slowly and agreed. "Tomorrow a special guest will visit the office. He brings a very scary message from headquarters. Brenda and Richard will laugh at my face. But they will cry tears of blood soon. My sweet revenge is finally ready for tomorrow." A special guest arrived from the big headquarters today. He brought a massive shock to the evil bosses. Please listen to this very satisfying, crazy moment. I promise to reveal my true hidden power today. The next morning was incredibly busy and loud. Mr. Harrison walked through the front glass doors. He is the top executive assistant from Los Angeles. He is 50 years old and very serious. He wears perfectly tailored, expensive black business suits. His face always looks completely professional and cold. He represents my powerful father at the headquarters. His sudden visit surprised the toxic local managers. Brenda and Richard ran to greet him quickly. They smiled with fake, sweet, happy faces today. They wanted to impress the powerful top assistant. They wanted to hide their massive dark crimes. Brenda offered him a cup of expensive coffee. Richard shook his hand with a greedy smile. They talked about their fake successful sales numbers. They bragged about their terrible toxic management skills. They blamed the old director for the losses. They lied with perfectly straight and calm faces. Mr. Harrison completely ignored their fake happy smiles. He did not drink the hot, expensive coffee. He looked around the large, busy office quietly. He searched for a very specific young face. He saw me standing near the dirty wall. I held my plastic mop and yellow bucket. I wore my cheap gray cleaning uniform today. My hair was tied in a messy style. Mr. Harrison walked directly toward my small corner. Brenda and Richard followed him with confused eyes. The other workers stopped typing on their computers. The entire office watched the strange scene silently. Mr. Harrison stopped right in front of me. He bowed his head with deep, pure respect. "Welcome to your new branch," he said loudly. "Director Maya," he announced to the silent room. He used my real name and true title. The hidden billionaire heiress was finally completely revealed. Brenda and Richard heard his clear, loud words. But they refused to believe the shocking truth. They made one final, incredibly stupid, dark mistake. You will love their terrible, ugly downfall tomorrow. Brenda and Richard refused to believe the truth. They thought the top assistant was making a joke. They signed their own dark, tragic ending today. Let me tell you about their final mistake. Brenda laughed very loudly in the quiet office. "This is a very funny joke," she smiled. "She is just our dirty, stupid floor cleaner. She cleans the toilets," Brenda told Mr. Harrison. She pointed her sharp nails at my face. "She spilled dirty water on my expensive dress. She is entirely poor and completely useless today." Richard shook his head with an arrogant smile. "A rat cannot manage a big, successful branch. She belongs in the dirty, dark garbage room." Mr. Harrison looked at them with cold anger. "I am absolutely not joking today," he stated. "She is the daughter of the company chairman. She is your new powerful branch director today." Brenda rolled her eyes with pure dark annoyance. "Stop this stupid, crazy acting right now," she yelled. She looked at my cheap uniform with disgust. "Janitors do not own global companies," she laughed. "You are just a crazy old man today." Richard decided to show his massive toxic power. He wanted to humiliate me before the crowd. He grabbed a white paper from a desk. He wrote a fast-firing order in ink. He signed his name with very angry hands. "You are officially fired immediately," Richard told me. He threw the white paper at my face. The paper hit my cheek and fell down. "Take your dirty bucket and leave," he demanded. The brave manager David ran to my side. He stood between me and the evil bosses. "You cannot treat people like trash," David yelled. He protected me from their toxic, angry words. "She is a good person," David defended me. Richard laughed at David with a cruel face. "You are also fired today," Richard yelled loudly. He thought he won the big office war. But I finally removed my cheap gray uniform. I picked up the stupid fake firing paper. My absolute total revenge will happen right now. The toxic bosses will face my extreme wrath. I looked at the stupid firing paper. I smiled a very cold, dark smile. I slowly took off my gray uniform. I wore a beautiful, expensive silk shirt. I looked like a true, powerful boss. Brenda and Richard watched me with shock. Their ugly faces turned completely, totally pale. Mr. Harrison handed me a black folder. It contained all my official power documents. I dropped the fake firing paper down. You cannot fire me today, I said. I own this entire massive building now. I opened the thick, heavy black folder. I pulled out my own firing papers. I signed my name with fast hands. You are both fired immediately, I announced. Richard tried to scream and fight back. I threw the secret photos at him. The photos showed their dirty secret romance. Brenda gasped loudly in pure deep fear. I threw the fake financial bank records. You stole $50,000, I stated. I recorded your terrible conversation, I said. The local police are waiting downstairs now. You ruined an innocent man for greed. Now they will lose everything they have. They will go to a dark prison. 2 police officers walked into the office. They put cold handcuffs on their wrists. The evil bosses cried loudly like babies. They walked out in absolute complete shame. The entire office clapped their hands loudly. The toxic dark cloud was finally gone. I turned to the brave, kind David. He looked at me with wide eyes. You are a very brave man, I smiled. This company needs your great, strong leadership. You are the new head of sales. David bowed his head with deep thanks. He finally got his big true reward. We fixed the broken branch very quickly. The unhappy workers smiled very happily again. We made massive profits in 2 months. The old innocent director got his money. I finally won my big corporate war. This is the end of my story. Good people will always win the fight. Evil bosses will face their dark karma. Thank you for listening to my journey.